Whew, Monica here. So last night, Tina and I got together and we did a irrigation box removal, and it was a very, very young hive, less than a month old. Very, very small amounts of sealed brood, and literally, this is all the comb that they had in their irrigation box. Very, very small. So what I do is I have saved some really old comb from other removals. This has got some nectar inside of it, and this was from a house attic or rafters. And out here in Arizona, we don't see American foul brood or European foul brood, so, and things like that. We're just really not. So I'm usually not worried about having any diseases. And this is like Africanized feral hive, from an Africanized feral hive to an Africanized feral hive, and we're just going to try to get the hive started. So recuperating from you know, their lack of resources and going through a cutout. So I have these old frames. These are frames that are no longer fit to go through an extractor, and I use these from my cutouts. I mean, everything is like recycled, reused. So I'm basically just going to stick, I had pre-cut that one with my hive tool. I just stick them in and rubber band them, and I save the comb from previous removals. Like I said, this one has a little nectar in it, which is nice. And because I'm really not even having to use too many rubber bands on this to hold it, because this was a great size, good sized piece of comb, and it fits pretty much perfectly in a deep frame. So I'm going to use that for one of theirs, and I have a few more just like that, but I'm also going to show you how I have some with some really nice pollen in there. Not sure, see all the pollen. So I'm just going to like place that in, and then also place their sealed brood and kind of do like a mosaic on this one with a lot more rubber bands. So give me 1 second, I'll be right back. Okay, so staying with comb orientation, keeping the, the comb that was drawn from the top of the hive at the top of the bar, and keeping all the direction correctly, I wired in my pollen, and then I wired in their sealed brood. Not wired, rubber banded. Okay, so I'm using a 4-frame nuke box, and instead of leaving it to a full opening where there's like 3 queen excluder entrances, I'm just reducing it all the way down to where it's just one entrance size, with being for a queen excluding. And so I'm going to trap the queen inside the box, and I've got them a little bottle of syrup. When I said 4 frames, so I did 2 frames on the outside that had a little bit of nectar in them from the previous removals, and then these 2 frames in the center were ones that had pollen in them from previous removals, and they also have their sealed brood is also rubber banded in there, so they have their hive plus a little extra to get them by, plus I'm feeding them. Okay, it's a really small irrigation box hive, like I said, just really small amount of bees, probably half a pound. And with that said, I could introduce them to another hive that is weak, but a lot of times this really works for me. So I am, even though it's just a little teeny weeny bit about bees, I'm still going to put a half suit on, because they did give me the alarm pheromone a few times last night, and I can already tell they're a little grouchy this morning, so they're not very happy with what they've been through. So I am just going to put the veil on. Okay, I dumped them, and a lot of them are going into the frames already, but I just noticed right there's the queen. You see her? Right there. Just gonna take a peek in real quick. And, oh, there they are. They're doing okay. This is the hive that we did the force abscond on. And I am going to reduce their entrance a little bit too, because they shouldn't have it so wide. It's not turning on me, hold on. Okay, so as you can see, I took it down to just the one. That'll help them out too. Okay, so as you can see, I took it down to just the one. That'll help them out too. I came to check on this removal also. Gosh, I can't even hardly remember yesterday, much less this was another recent one. Oh, this is a shed floor. Okay, so the shed floor, there was a lot more bees in it, so we put it in a full-size laying straw. And I just checked on them, and they do need more syrup. Okay, so now this is all that's left over from the old comb from a previous removal and the new comb from last night's removal. And so this is now considered my waste. So I always check the comb to make sure there's not a huge amount of pollen. And if there's not, whoop, it's going into the solar wax melter. So I do that with all of them. And then I get down to, like, this was a little patch of brood that I'm not going to use. And that's just going to be, that's a chicken treat right there. Okay, so that's the pile of junk comb to be melted down for wax. And this is the pile of comb that I'm keeping. I have some comb that has, on both sides, it has pollen. This one has a little nectar. Again, pollen and nectar, and then that's the bird food. So as you can see from the bee removals, there's no waste. But what you can also notice, okay, so what you also notice with the bee removals, if you just note that I visited 3 of them. One that I did last night, an irrigation box. One was a swarm that had nothing established for them. And the other one was a fairly large shed floor removal. Those were the last 3 in the last week that I've done. And so I visited them. And as you noticed that I am feeding them sugar syrup, I'm also going to show a video of a protein source that they are allowed to forage on while they're here. And then we also utilize a lot of our resources in order to get these hives reestablished. And that is why there is a fee for doing bee removals, especially this time of the year. We are in a major dearth, in a major drought, and the bees are not doing very well, and they really, really need beekeepers right now. This is one of my bee feeders. It is an old rain barrel laying on its flat side, and it's got a little bit of Bee Pro and Ultra Bee in there, and the bees get in there and they can gather it. And when they're working it this heavy, it means that there's nothing natural out there for them